Director of Academic Advising and Student Success. And we're going to be talking about advising and getting you some of the same information that your students are getting from their academic advisors this afternoon. And then also some helpful tips just for you, parents, that your students are not getting, so you can feel like you have the insider information. Okay, here are our first year advisors. As I was saying before, sorry to tell you again, but for the people in the other room, we assign advisors by last name. So depending on your student's last name, that will decide who their academic advisor is. So Sarah Thompson is the advisor for students with the last names A through G. Danielle Wall is H through O, and Alex Cummings is P through Z. All three of them are fabulous. They're amazing, helpful people that love working with freshmen, love working with students. So your students will be in really good hands. The advisor is going to be kind of your first point of contact for your students. So any questions that come up, they can go straight to their advisor to ask, whether it's related to academics or not. They might want to know, how to play tennis at the rec center. I'm looking at the tennis courts on top of the roof. Your student's advisor might not know, but they will be able to say, go to the rec center, ask at the front desk. So don't, if your student is ever like, I have this question and I don't know who to ask, their academic advisor is always the perfect place to start. And then they can refer them accordingly. They can't answer all the questions or solve all the problems, but they'll know who to connect your student to. So I did want to say just a little bit about what advisors do, because it is a little bit of a shift from the, from the high school guidance counselor to academic advisor. So here's what advisors do and what your students can expect from working with their advisor. One, we help students navigate CU, both physically and virtually. We know how things work. So like I said, if your student has any kind of question, they're not sure how campus works, they're not sure how something gets done, go to their advisor, they'll point them in the right direction. Sometimes we have students that feel like I can only ask questions about my classes. That's not true. Come ask any question to your advisor. It might be that we're sending them to, a website or helping them navigate the registration system or physically sending them somewhere on campus. But CU is a huge campus, which is really exciting. That means there's tons of opportunities, tons of resources, but it also means it can get a little overwhelming. It's sometimes hard to even know where to start with things. So the advisor is kind of the place to start. We are a resource for information about majors, minors, programs on campus. We are going to help your students customize their degree. So again, there's 100 major options at CU. There's minors, there's certificates. How is your student going to think about how to incorporate their interests, include all the things they want to do, and still graduate in 4 years? That's where the advisor comes in. Your advisor, or your student's advisor, is going to help them process that, help them come up with a plan, and help them through that decision-making process. We help students stay on track for graduation. This is really big for us. We know all of our students can graduate in 4 years, and we want to help them graduate in 4 years. Some students decide they don't want to because they have other things going on, or they have other personal circumstances that they want to take longer or need to take longer. But for the most part, it is possible for all students to graduate in 4 years, and we want to help them do that. So we help students create 4-year plans. In their first semester, they're going to have a 4-year plan to graduate. It will change. We're not under the impression that at the end of their first year, they're going to make every decision and they'll be set to graduate in 4 years. But we at least help them see the process. There's a path. There's a path that they can be on that will help lead them to an 8-semester graduation. And in the background, your student's advisor is kind of tracking them, not to sound creepy, but we are checking their progress. We're checking, have they been dropping classes? We get notified if a student drops a class or gets a D or an F in a class. We notice when a student hasn't come in to see us. We know when they haven't registered for the right classes or the full 15 credits that they need to be on track. So your student's advisor is monitoring some of these big milestones in the background, and we will reach out if we notice a problem. We can't notice every problem all the time, so things may come up that your student will come to us about that we won't be aware of yet. But for some of these big things that we're tracking, we will be reaching out to your student if we see that there's a problem or if we suspect they might be starting to get off track. And we'll have a conversation with them about it. Again, we help connect students to resources and support systems. We facilitate major and career exploration. A lot of the work your student is going to be doing in the first semester and their first year is just figuring out who they are, what do they want to be, where do they want this to go. This morning, Laura Cornish told the stories of a couple of lead students. Your students will have equally interesting and amazing stories, and we'll help them kind of think that through, think about where they want to be, how they want to get there, what that's going to look like for them, and help them make those connections between their career interests and their academic interests. And then finally, the advisors teach Designing Your Leads, which is our first year seminar class that all lead students take, that is really focused on helping them do some of that exploration and self-discovery and really thinking about their goals and why they're here. So that's kind of what your students' advisors are doing. We do have some required advising touch points along the way. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what I wanted to do is also give you a really quick overview of the LEADS curriculum. So you may have heard some of this from your student as they were going through the new student welcome experience this summer, thinking about what classes they should take, why they should take them. So I just wanted to give you an overview too of what their time here will look like in terms of their classes and their degree requirements. So in order to graduate, all students have to have 120 credits. And it's broken down in different categories of requirements. So you can see here the overall pie chart and the different categories. About half of their degree, it's 56 credits out of the 120, is non-business requirements. And then the rest is business requirements. So I'll go through and talk about each one individually. So we'll first start with the Gen Ed. So out of their 120, 33 of those credits are Gen Ed requirements. Those are general education classes that will help give them a really, broad background in a lot of different topics. It gives them some really good critical thinking skills, good writing skills, good wide background on lots of different subjects. So we require our math class, Math 11-12, it's math analysis and business, and macro and microeconomics. Beyond that, students get to choose classes in each of these categories. So they're gonna have 6 credits in arts and humanities, 3 credits in U.S. diversity, 3 credits in global diversity, 6 credits in natural science, and 3 credits in written communication. So your students may just be picking and choosing random classes that seem interesting to you. So if your student tells you, I'm taking intro to theater, and you might be like, well, why are you taking that? What does that have to do with your business degree? That's why, because it counts as a Gen Ed. But within each Gen Ed category, there's literally 100 or more classes that count. So students can really pick and choose here classes that seem interesting to them, and also classes that might be related to their potential career interest. So if a student is interested in pre-health, they can take some classes here, natural science and others, that would help get them on a health careers track. Or if they're interested in economics, they can take lots of classes that fall in each of these categories in the economics department. So there's ways to pick and choose these strategically. They don't just have to pick random classes that they're not into. We'll help them really think about what they want to take, how they want to use these credits, and what makes sense for them. In addition to the non-business and to the Gen Ed, students also get 23 credits of non-business electives. And so this is kind of cool because they get 23 credits, it's like 7 classes, of any class outside of the business school. So the way our students generally think about these credits, we encourage them to think about minors, certificates outside of the business school. If they have any MAPS requirements or foreign language requirements coming in, those count here. But really they can use it also as a way to just explore interests. They can take, really just interesting, fun classes. They can, again, take more classes that fit towards their career interests. They can use these to build some skills, some professional skills like communication, writing, computer programming, things like that. Also, study abroad is huge. Lots of our students study abroad for a semester. Probably many of your students are thinking that is an interest for them. Most students take a lot of these non-business electives abroad. And even from the first semester, we're going to be talking to your students about that, thinking about, okay, what's in your plan? What do you want to make sure you do during your time here? And if study abroad is even something they're thinking about, we're going to encourage them to save these credits and not take them until they study abroad. And that way we can ensure they'll have a full load of credits they can take while they're abroad and graduate on time, which you can do. You can study abroad and graduate on time, which is always good news for people if you've planned ahead. And then if your student has AP, IB, or concurrent enrollment credit, chances are a lot of those classes are counting here as well. And they will have already talked to their advisor about that. If they haven't, or if they haven't sent their test scores yet, definitely encourage them to do that. And then they'll see all of this in their degree audit, which their advisors will be talking to them about, but that's a way for them to track their progress and track how the classes they've taken are counting towards their degree. So then shifting over to their business requirements, we have 30 credits of what we call B Core classes. These are really foundational business classes that our students take in their first 2 years. So their first 4 semesters, they're going to be taking these B Core classes. It's really interdisciplinary and applied learning. These classes are very hands-on. They're doing projects, they're doing group work with some of our partner companies, and it really exposes them to company data and real company problems. We need to give them the theory of business, but we also want them to see the application of it and see that finance doesn't operate in a vacuum. Finance is related to marketing and accounting and all these other things. So this is really these are the business classes that your students are going to be focusing on their first 4 semesters, and they are actually in one of them already, either our World of Business class or our Strategic Communication class. And by the end of their 4th semester, basically the way it works is that all students take very similar classes for their first 4 semesters. So for their first 2 years, they're taking B Corps, they're taking some Gen Eds, and then when they get to their junior year, that's when they're starting their area of emphasis classes. So the area of emphasis is, most people refer to it as their major. Actually, all students have the same major. It's business administration. So they're all getting a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with an area of emphasis in something. So that is accounting, finance, real estate, management, marketing. But all students are getting this BS in Business Administration. They start their area of emphasis as a junior, and it's 18 credits. So it's 6 classes that they take as a deep dive into this area of emphasis. And then finally, they have business electives. So they have 16 credits of required business electives. Students use these credits again to customize their degree. So this is another opportunity where students can really do something that's interesting to them, that fits with their career goals, and will help them, customize and differentiate themselves. So they could do this by doing a certificate in business. They could do it with a second area of emphasis. They can actually do 2 areas of emphasis and still graduate on time because it's 16 credits of electives and 18 credits for a second area. So all of those second area classes count as their business electives. They could take career-directed electives. So if they think they need some specific career skills for whatever direction they want to go in, they can take specific classes for that. Or again, study abroad is a great way to use these credits. If that's an interest to them, there's a lot of programs that offer really great, international business classes that can count as their business electives. So how does this all work across the 4 years? This is what your student schedule looks like right now. So students have been registered in Math 11-12, which is our math analysis for business. That's a heavy Excel-based class. They're going to be learning how to use Excel to solve business problems. Microeconomics is another one that all of our students are pre-registered for. Designing Your Leads is our first year seminar class, and then one of the B Corps classes, either Communication Strategy or World of Business. So we pre-registered all of our freshmen in these cohorts. So your students were pre-registered for these over the summer in groups with other students. So they are, with a group of it usually ends up being about 25 students, and they have all 4 of these classes together. That really helps them be successful because it helps them make friends, meet each other. They have built-in study groups. They know people in their classes. We know CU is a big place. We want to try to make it small, especially in their first year. So we build that in as a support for them. And then they added 1 extra class. So they added some kind of gen ed class. If they're in a program that requires a class, if they're in a minor or something like that, that other program might have dictated this extra class. But most of the students are probably in a gen ed class. Your student schedule might look a little bit different. They might have come in with some AP microcredit. If they're in quant finance or the computer science integration, they're taking a different math class. But for the most part, this is what the first year schedule looks like. So our students are really taking, B Corps and Gen Ed for the first 4 semesters. And then just to say a little bit more about our Designing Your Leads class, that is one that's part of the cohort that all students have been in. As I mentioned before, that's taught by an academic advisor or another one of our academic or undergrad success team. Actually, we have career team that teaches it, our honors program teaches it, our scholars program. Lots of our undergrad staff teach this class. And it's really a way for us to help students kind of make this transition, help support them, help them really think about what they want to get out of this experience, not how to cram more in. We see students all the time that are like, well, I want to do 37 certificates and 4 minors and 8 majors and graduate in 3 years. And maybe they can. Like, these kids are amazing. Maybe they can do that, but should they do that? And so we really try to help them, like, okay, let's reflect. Let's stop and think about, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Where are you trying to go with this? And help them, design the experience that makes sense for them. So we actually do it within a design thinking framework. So that gives them some extra skills on human-centered design and creative problem solving, thinking outside the box. And we do it through hands-on activities, lots of group discussions, lots of assignments to go out and do something. So we actually have assignments in class that require them to go talk to a senior, hear about their experiences, hear what has worked for them. They have to go out and talk to a professional. They have to go out and do something that they think they're interested in. So instead of having our students sit back and say, like, oh, I'll just figure it out later, we have them jump in right away and work on it now. We don't think they're going to make any decisions now. We're not forcing them to make decisions. What we're trying to do is give them a framework and a way to think about it, and a way to start exploring, so that they don't get to junior year and feel like, oh, well, now what do I do? I've already taken my B-Corps classes. What do I do? So part of this, what we're thinking about in designing your leads and what your advisor, or your student's advisor, will be talking about with their students is how to customize your degree. So what do we mean by that when we talk about customizing your degree? All students, as I mentioned, have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Their first and one required customization is choosing an area of emphasis. So these are the options that they'll choose from. So they'll pick either accounting, business analytics, finance, management, marketing, or real estate. If they choose management and entrepreneurship, they do have to choose one of these tracks. There's no just general management major or area of emphasis here. They do have to choose one of these tracks within management. But we don't really stop there. We encourage them to think about, okay, what else? What else makes sense with my goals, with my interests? What else could I do? So we think about business certificates. So certificates would count as business electives. These are able to be paired with any area of emphasis. And it's really a way for students to think about application and a more deep dive in a certain industry or area that they're interested in. So for instance, we have lots of students that are interested in business of sports or global business. You could be an accounting major and do business of sports, or you could do a marketing major and do business of sports. And you can start to understand that, like, the way an accounting student would work in the sports industry would be very different than the way a marketing student would work in the sports industry. But students start to customize that experience and think about where they want to go, what's going to help them get there. In addition, we're helping them think about other academic differentiators. So things like study abroad, minors, double areas of emphasis, even double degrees. We do have students that love business and they love history, or they love engineering, and so they want to combine both of those interests with a double degree. Anytime you have two majors in two different colleges, it's considered a double degree. But we can help students think about adding that to their plan if they want to. And then also we're thinking about their co-curricular experiences. You can't learn everything from class. So where are you going to get other skills, other experiences, have other things that help fulfill you? So our career development office is amazing with that, helping students think about mentoring, internships. Their advisors will talk to them about involvements, thinking about what clubs and organizations they want to get involved in, and their leadership experiences, and more. So all of this together, both in class and out of class, is what we think about as their students' customized degree. And that's really going to be the focus of our first 4 semesters in working with them, helping them think all this through, think about the big picture and how they want to put this together. So you may hear from your students right now that they don't know what they want to major in, or they don't know which area of emphasis is great for them. That's fine. That's totally normal. And even a lot of kids that come in thinking they know change their mind once they start to learn more. So there's no need to worry right now if your student is undecided, and they shouldn't be worrying either. But we also hear all the time, I'll wait and take a class and see if I like it. I'll wait until the mods and see what I like. And that's one way of choosing a major. That's honestly how I chose my major. And it probably was not the best way. Like, looking back, I wish I had done a little bit more to explore. So here are some things that we recommend, and things you can recommend to your students of what they can do to explore before they take that accounting class or finance class. So designing your leads is going to help them with this. In designing your leads, we encourage them to go out and prototype, to try things. That's something you can do too. If your student thinks they're interested in computer science, maybe they could go online and take a free coding class through LinkedIn Learning. Or maybe they could go sit in on a computer science class and just see if they like the vibe of it. They could talk to students who are in the computer science major or minor. They could have informational interviews. We have micro internships where students can work on a small project with a company to get a little bit of exposure to it. In the first year, we have this great program called the First Year Speaker Series, where we have our faculty come in and talk about their areas of study, their areas of research, and also professionals who come in and talk about their paths and what they've done. Really taking this opportunity to hear and learn as much as they can. Also joining student organizations. A lot of our LEADS student organizations are very professionally focused. So it's a great way to meet people, but it's also a great way to get some exposure to what that profession, that industry is really like. And it's a really great way to meet other people who have similar interests as well. So these are all things that you can suggest to your students as they're talking to you and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want to major in. One, is totally normal. And two, there are definitely things you can do beyond just waiting to take the class. Okay. A couple of things to point out about the academic calendar. So we all know classes start on Monday. If your student goes to class on Monday and they hate it, it's okay. They can still change their classes. So the last day to add a class is next Wednesday, August 31st. So if they go to class and they're a little bit worried, like, I don't know if this is for me, I don't know if I want this class, they can drop and add a new class through the 31st. The last day to drop a class without any penalty is Wednesday, September 7th. So even beyond that add deadline, they can still get out of a class if they feel like they really need to. If that comes up, definitely refer them to their advisor. We can talk them through that and help them think about the options and the implications. But all of the registration dates and deadlines are online. The easiest way to find them is just to Google CU Boulder Academic Calendar, and those pop up. I would definitely recommend just keeping an eye on that. And then you can also remind your student, like, hey, this deadline's coming up. Are you sure that you want to keep your classes? Or do you need to do X, Y, Z? We send out lots of reminders. We send out lots of emails. We get things out through social media. It always helps to have parents reinforcing that message too. So I would encourage you can, print it out and put it on your refrigerator, whatever, but that is a resource for you. As I mentioned before, we have a required advising model. We have a few touch points that all students must meet with their advisor, and we do that in order to get students on this path to success. We know that there's certain things students have to do in a certain order in order to be on track to graduate and stay on track to graduate. So here's a few things that are going to happen for your students in their first 4 semesters. One, in their first semester, we will actually come into their Designing Your Leads class, or their advisor who's teaching their Designing Their Leads class will do academic advising in the class, and we link that to an assignment in class, which is a 4-year plan. But that's really focusing on how to use the registration system, how to track your progress, and thinking big picture about, okay, what do I want to do? What classes do I need next semester? Do I feel comfortable registering on my own? Because next semester, we do not pre-register students. We only do that for their first semester. Next semester, they're going to do it completely on their own with some follow-up from their advisor. And then we also have side by side here the 4-year graduation milestones. So really, for your student to stay on track for graduation right now, they just need to be in 15 credits. That's the big thing we're looking at. They have to average 15 credits a semester in order to graduate in 8 semesters. So they're taking Designing Your Leads. We want them to have 15 credits and then their cohort classes. But even if they missed one of those cohort classes, they could still be on track for their first semester. Going into their second year, we continue to explore options. So we're going deeper into exploring your options through a workshop that they'll attend. And by the end of their first year, you can see the list of classes. As long as they finish these classes by the end of their first year and have at least 30 credits, they're going to be on track. So it's World of Business, Data Analysis, Communication Strategy, Microeconomics, and Mathematical Analysis. So many of those they're in right now, and whichever ones they're not in, they'll take in the spring semester to be on track. Going into the third semester, this is where we want them to start narrowing their focus. So our required advising is starting to be a little bit more specific, to focus on exploring their area, learn more in depth about the specific areas, planning ahead for studying abroad, minors, certificates, and all of that. And in the sophomore year, in their third semester, they're taking what we call our mods. So these are half semester classes. They'd get an intro to marketing, management, accounting, finance, information management, and operations management. So in this semester, you're going to hear about these classes because they're very fast. They're 8 weeks. They move really fast. They're taking all 6 of them. So they have 3 in the first half, 3 in the second half. It's a real challenge for our students, just the pace of it and how quickly the classes go. But what we're trying to do here is teach the students the foundations that all business people need to know. Regardless of what you actually end up doing, this gives them the introduction, and this gives them like just that overview that they need to then go deeper. And by the end of their third semester, they need to be at 45 credits. And then in their fourth semester, they're taking BASE, which is our kind of our capstone class for their first 2 years for our B Corps. They've taken these intro classes. They have the world of business. They have some of these, business concepts. Now we ask them to apply it. So this is a really big project-based class. They're working in teams with company problems, working to solve problems together, integrating all of the knowledge they've learned. So that's a really fun semester for them. They learn a lot. A lot of times the stories students tell after BASE are the ones that get them internships and get them jobs, because they learn so much, and they learn so much about teamwork and applying these concepts, and they actually have some real world experience just from being in the classroom. And in their fourth semester, this is where we meet with them individually and we map out a customized plan. So by the end of their sophomore year, every student has a plan to graduation that has their minor, their major, their certificates, whatever they want to do is in that plan. So they know exactly, here are the classes I need to graduate. And that really helps our students feel comfortable and confident in their junior and senior year that, yes, I have a plan, I know where I'm going. The first 2 years are really, oh, my earring just fell off, are really the same for everybody. But then going into their junior and senior year, that's when their paths start to, go in different directions. So we want to make sure going into that year, they know what that plan looks like and where they're going. So then after their fourth semester, then advising becomes optional. We're still monitoring them in the background, and they still come in and check with us because they're so used to it and they want to. But beyond that, we feel like they have a plan, they can follow it. If they want to change it and update it, great, come see us. We're happy to still work with them. We love working with them all the way through to graduation. But we really set them up for success in their first 2 years so that they're then able to track that on their own. So our commitment to four-year graduation, really in their first 4 semesters, the Designing Your Leads class is huge. The cohorts that they're pre-registered in for their fall classes are huge because it really gives them the sense of community and sense of belonging. The required advising, the lockstep curriculum for the first 2 years, those B Corps are very strict in their prereqs, and all the students follow them in a specific order. And that actually helps them stay on track because they know the expectations. They know what they have to do to be on track. They have their customized plan by the end of their 4th semester, and then in the background, advisors are kind of tracking their progress and intervening. So we have a pretty well-structured system in place to help support your student and get them on track. Here are some things that you can do in your student's first semester to help reinforce that. So 1, don't miss required advising meetings. We do have these requirements to help students. It's not like we're trying to punish them or make them jump through hoops. It actually helps them as this developmental process to help them through this decision making and exploration. So encourage them, remind them that they have these meetings, and encourage them not to miss them, because it can actually delay their graduation if they, or not their graduation, their registration if they don't attend them. So that leads me to the next point of register on time. So registration will happen in November, early November it starts for the spring semester. Sometimes in November, students are feeling overwhelmed because it's like, midterms, and they're looking forward to finals, and it's, especially in their first year, there's just a lot going on, and they think, oh, I'll just wait. I'll just deal with it after the semester is done. We don't want students doing that. If they do that, they'll still get classes they need, but they'll be at like 8 a.m. or 5 p.m. They won't get their ideal schedule. So we really encourage students to register as soon as they can to get their ideal schedule and to make sure they get the classes they need. So, the more you can remind them, like, hey, did you go to advising? Did you register? Are you ready to register? That is key. Taking their B Corps classes in the correct order. If they don't register for classes in the correct order, they can get off track pretty quickly. That is something we're checking in the background, but it's a good thing just to remind your student, like, hey, are you in all your B Corps that you need? And then finally, get to know your advisor. The advisor is really, in addition to like helping them and helping them stay on track, if their advisor knows the student, they'll be able to really make some great customized recommendations. They can have great conversations about, oh, if you're interested in this, have you thought about this program? Did you know about this club at CU? They can really help identify unique opportunities. If the student doesn't come to meet with their advisor, if they don't know their advisor, if they don't have, these getting to know you conversations, it's harder for the advisor. They can still help with the classes, but it's harder to make these recommendations to help the student really think about things beyond what they might have already thought about. So those are some things you can encourage in your students' first semester. We do have sample four-year plans on our website. So this QR code will take you right there, or the website is listed. These I think are helpful just for you to see, just to get a sense of what that 4-year looks like with classes. You can also just Google Leeds 4-year plans and those will pop up as well. Just waiting for people to finish their photos. Okay. Okay, so other things that we know contribute to first year success and that we would love if you could help reinforce and encourage with your students. One, get involved. We know that a sense of connection and belonging is really key to student success. Students have to feel like they belong here, that they have met people that are like them, that they connect with, that they that know them. So getting involved is really a great way to do that, whether it's a club. I mean, it could be, a professional focus within Leeds. It could be the hiking club. It doesn't really matter, but just get involved in something to feel a part of the CU and the Leeds community. Peer-to-peer mentoring is an amazing resource if your student hasn't already signed up for that. It's not too late. They can get a mentor. These are upper class students at Leeds that sign up to mentor the freshmen, and they're there to just answer questions to help them through this transition. The advisors can help with a lot, but we don't know where the best place to eat on the hill is or where the cool parties are. So the peer-to-peer mentor can really help with all of that and just help the student, again, establish that connection and that belonging. This was mentioned this morning. Laura and Jennifer both touched on this. Go to faculty office hours. Encouraging your students to get to know their faculty, to talk to them. Don't just come and go from class, but stick around after class, ask questions, go to office hours. I'm sure that they know from high school that really helped them get ahead in some ways and have great letters of recommendation. The same is true here. They want to get to know those faculty. And then finally, ask for help. It's intimidating sometimes, and there's so many resources, and it's sometimes hard to know who to ask or where to go. But if there's anything they have questions about, they can always ask for help, always come to their advisor, and we are there to help. Okay, parents, I'm almost done, but I did want to tell you about this really fun thing called FERPA. Have you heard of this already? This, as a child of the 90s, this kind of cracks me up with Vanilla Ice, word to your mother. Okay, so FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So this is a federal law that actually restricts your access to your students' records. You no longer have access to call up and ask how your students are doing, or to view their records, or to, ask about their academic records. It's all protected now that they are technically adults. But there are ways that your students can give you access. So they can go onto the Buff portal. There's an online form. It's a FERPA release form, and they can add you so that if you do have a concern, if you're wondering, how's my student doing, and you need to call the advisor or me, if they have signed that FERPA release, we can share information with you. If they haven't signed the FERPA release, we unfortunately can't. I would encourage you all to have this conversation with your students now. Right now, they're all very confident. They all think it's going to be great. They're probably going to be more willing to give you access now than after they fail their first class and are trying to hide it from you, right? So just casually have the conversation, mention it, say it came up and that you would like to have access, and they can give you access in Buff portal. And we hear from students, normally, it goes great and you won't need to know anything, and your student will be communicative and they'll tell you what you need to know and it'll be great. But in the chance that you do have questions or you feel like your student's not giving you the whole picture, they're going to be much less likely to give you access once they have something they're trying to not share. So just have the conversation now, have them add you now, and hopefully you'll never need it, but if it does come up, then you'll have the access that you want. Okay, other ways that you can partner with us. One, always refer back to campus resources. I know it can be really frustrating and scary and stressful when your student calls you and you're far away and they're like, I'm having this problem and I don't know what to do, and you want to help. The best thing to do sometimes is to remind them of the resources on campus and refer them there, or say, go talk to your advisor, go talk to Sarah or Danielle or Alex, and they will help you. Don't try to advise them on the classes or the policy. It's really sad when students are like, but my mom told me to take this class. And we're like, but it doesn't count. So really, like, you can help them think it through and help them think about what they want to take, but don't try to advise them on what the policy is or what the classes are. Send them to their advisor. You can help your student find information in the catalog. That's like the official place where all rules and policies are listed. So it's just catalog or colorado.edu/catalog. And that's really like the source for information if you're ever wondering, or if your student's ever wondering about a policy. So for resources, again, for advising, we are available the first week of classes. We have drop-ins all day long. So from 8 to 5, all the advisors are available in the advising office and on Zoom. And we are able to answer questions that come up. So if your student goes to that first class and they're panicking or they don't like it or whatever, have them come to drop-in hours next week and their advisor will help solve that situation. Beyond that, they can set up an appointment with their advisor. They can go to advising drop-ins, which we have every week on Mondays from 1 to 3. But appointments are really the best way because then they get more time and they don't have to wait in line or wait till their advisor's available. And then we also have peer advisors, which are actually a great resource. They're students that have been well trained, they're juniors and seniors, they're top achievers, and they have a really great perspective too. They can also provide a lot of support and advising, and they have drop-in hours in our office all day long as well. So there's always a place to go to get that question answered. One other thing I wanted you to be aware of, you should have some flyers on the seats around you about FGX. Hopefully you've already heard of this. This is the first year global experience. This is a class that our students can sign up for and they take in the spring semester. It's only available their first year. So they, if they're interested, they shouldn't think, oh, I'll just wait and take it as a sophomore. They really can only do it as a freshman. But they take a class on international business in the spring, and then they travel with their class to an amazing location like Athens or Copenhagen or Dubai or, Paris or Rome. And they take this class together as a group for a week, and they do company visits, they do cultural visits, and they really get to see international business in action. And it starts to open them up to international business, to cultural competence, to really understanding how things work in international business. Even if your students have traveled extensively before, I've gone on these trips with students who've never been abroad, and I've gone on these trips with students that have traveled to so many amazing locations. It's really amazing. They all get something out of this. Students tell me all the time, I took a group to Paris in May, and they said, I've been to Paris with my parents, but this is completely different. I really have a different perspective on it because they got to see the business side of it. They weren't just doing all the touristy things. They really got an inside look at the way business works in Paris. So it's an interesting perspective for everybody, but definitely encourage you to think about this. And the reason we bring it up today is that the deadline to apply comes up really fast. The enrollment will be from September 26th to October 3rd. So it's a decision you have to make pretty quickly. I would say talk to your students about it. There is a cost for it, and it's unfortunately more expensive this year than it was last year because of inflation, which no one can escape from. But if you are interested, if your student's interested in, and your family can make it work, there are also scholarships available. I encourage you to talk to your students about this and consider it. And then finally, Parents or Family Weekend is coming up in October. So if you would like to come back and see a football game in this amazing stadium and cheer on the Buffs, and there'll be lots of family and parent activities that week, definitely hope that you come back and join us for that as well. So I have a few of our undergraduate team members with me today, and we wanted to open it up for some questions to see if there are any questions. Hopefully I addressed a lot of them, but we will answer a few questions, and then we'll all be available after as well to answer individual questions. So if you all want to come up and introduce yourselves and